from a numbers perspective. The male to female suicide rate is 4 to 1. Suicide takes more lives than war, murders, and natural disasters combined. 95% of all homeless people are male. 92% of all workplace deaths are male. So tell me, if you're looking at all of these numbers and you see how the chips are stacked up against men, how do you conclude that there is a patriarchy, one of which puts men completely on a pedestal while oppressing women, if these are the numbers that men are experiencing?
Where's the dominance here precisely?
Oh. What up, YouTube? All right, guys, listen, I got some very exciting news for all of my subscribers and my day ones. For the past few months, I've been working on a very special project. Let's call it a documentary. The documentary is the most comprehensive look into the red pill and the social, economic, and political factors which have contributed to the rise of the RP community. Hundreds of hours have gone into the research and production of this project, and I am excited to present it to each and every one of you. Transcending the Red Pill, a 7-part, hour-and-a-half documentary series which details the events and circumstances which have led up to today's gynocentric environment. Some of the chapters here include the weaponization of the modern woman, which unpacks feminism's deep, dark, seedy past, the demasculinization of modern men, which exposes how the system places many Western men at a disadvantage, the destruction of the nuclear family, the re-engineering of Western society, Red Pill Rage Decoded, and much, much more. Transcending the Red Pill is now available. Click the link and learn the facts. I've also included 2 bonus chapters on how you can fast track your way to a better, higher quality life. Dating is only one part of the red pill. There are many other components which are deliberately hidden from us men, and this documentary aims to expose it all. And don't forget, by clicking the link, you can get Transcending the Red Pill, my first official documentary series online, and satisfy your logic. Until next time, YouTube. Peace! Alright, guys, you're looking at the thumbnail, you're looking at the title of the video, y'all already know what time it is. It is time to get active. Guys, first and foremost, shout out to my Instagram, at Mediocre Tourism Reviews. It's long, but you know how to spell if you don't. There's a link to it down in the description box down below. I call that out because these clips come from my IG. Thank you guys so much for sending these on over. I've said it once, and I will say it again. I love women, but I hate feminism with a passion. With that being said, these couple of clips that I have for you today will detail exactly why. Without further ado.
As a strong public figure and a woman, what is your stance on modern day feminism?
On what?
Modern day feminism.
It's failed women.
Uh-oh.
Miserable. They are fighting a cause that is detrimental to the life of the unborn and to young women, and it puts them on a wrong path. The feminists are wrong. They got it. All the evidence is out there. There's a reason why 40, 50-year-old single women are desperately trying to get pregnant. All right? There's a reason. They're all the joys and wonders of that world, that employment world, and careers didn't seem to quite satisfy their true needs. All right? They have screwed up their lives. I have story after story, and I'll tell you at lunch 1 or 2 of them. But you're on the right track. Do not be afraid of the feminists. They have nothing. They have nothing.
Where I think feminists get it wrong is they do not consider that men and women are unique amongst each other. We're more similar than we are different. But for the ways that we are different, it can determine what is success or happiness within one's life when they look back at said life. What she said was very important. She has story after story of 40 to 50-year-old women that look back on their lives, successful as all get out, but then they see that they have not established a family, or they lived by the I don't need no man shit, and they find that the greatest relationship that they can have within their lives, they're past the expiry date, both from a relationship perspective as well as a childbearing perspective. I tell you all day about the sickness of the single ass aunties, and it's not a good way to live one's life. But I think the key metric that feminists completely lose sight of is that because that there's certain traits within my masculinity that might make me a better fit for a workforce as demanding, as commanding, being able to say no, being able to be as competitive as what I need to be in order to rise to the top, being able to make tough or difficult decisions from a leadership perspective, and pursuing that forward without feeling the need to please and nurture people's feelings around me are uniquely masculine characteristics. Most women, especially women that are deeply soaked within their femininity, won't like that type of lifestyle, and convincing them that they will lead them down a windy road of unhappiness to the conclusion of their life. I believe in the idea of giving women the right to choose whatever it is that they want to choose. But what I don't agree with is this idea of shaming women for choosing much more traditional roles. Your average modern day feminist will shame women. It will convince the women around them to shame women that want to do something as make themselves a better option for a man.
Do not be afraid of the feminists. They have nothing. They have nothing.
So the narrative in and of itself is wrong because it's telling women that they are at a disadvantage right from the get-go. And that simply isn't true. If anything, it's a woman's world. We're advantaged as females. Today. Obviously, I wouldn't have said that 50 or 100 years ago. But today, it has become that, which is what the men's rights movement really is about, is showing that we derailed. We focused on something that needed to be focused on, but we got off track. And now it's become about disempowering men to raise women up. Well, you did that. We have more women on college campuses than men. We have more female breadwinners today than ever before, but also a huge rise in single motherhood. So at the rise of the so-called rise of women has come at a tremendous cost. And that is what is not allowed to be acknowledged. That it's supposed to be all positive to have women rising as though they were on the floor before and now they're going up here. But the irony is they were up here. They were what they did and the role that they played was their own separate pedestal, if you will. And we've knocked them off that and said, this pedestal over here where men sit is better. You want to emulate that.
Pay attention.
And have that because they have all this power and a better life. So we lost what women did have in this attempt to have something that's better, which A, isn't better, and B, things get lost in the process when we turn away from here, namely marriage and the family, marriage and kids, men and kids, husbands and kids. So this incessant focus on women is not, in my opinion, a good thing. It is not equality, because there's other people that live in the world besides women.
There's a show that you guys may or may not be familiar with called Full Metal Alchemist. And the premise of the show is based off of the idea of the law of equivalent exchange. And that law states that something cannot be created out of nothing. So in order to obtain something of equal value must be lost. And I love that quote because outside of it being from a very popular anime, it means so much within the physical world as well. Pushing people out into the workforce is a benefit to the state. Why? The more people that are working, the more tax dollars that are being paid. But what did we lose? The family suffered. Marriage rates, divorce rates, single parent households, children being raised in child care centers, daycares, as opposed to be raised with a family. So in other words, to continue to help bolster or prosper a society, part of the proverbial reins were given to women as well to help the continuation of this capitalistic society. And right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm a fan of capitalism. If we can squeeze more work out of another individual within that, then I have no qualms about that if that is their decision. But what I think is not talked about enough is making that decision. What real impact will that have on their lives as well? But I think it's disingenuous when these talking points come from the perspective of women currently living in 2022 in a ridiculous patriarchy, one of which they are still oppressed and they don't have as many of the benefits to them in society, when the numbers don't actually show that. The numbers have debunked the wage gap, and the numbers show that in key facets of society, men are at a disadvantage when it comes to the family court system, homelessness rates, incarceration rates, and so much more. If we're really in a patriarchy, would men be subjected to the negatives of the patriarchy, to the way that they are? No.
Solve these problems regarding boys and men.
Well, and also, Suzanne, it's a whitewashing of gender. I got slammed here when I mentioned on the show a few months ago that actually genders are different. Some liberal blogs wrote about me saying that. How outrageous that there are differences between men and women, biological differences that we should be embracing, not trying to whitewash, and that's what these feminists want to do.
Those are the two things. That they're stating that there's no differences between women and men, and the fact that the patriarchy is alive and well and, out to get you, so to speak, and we have to, in order to achieve equality, redo our entire system. So the point is, anytime someone tries to speak out and address the real issues that revolve around the male-female relationship, marriage, family, domestic violence, by the way, goes both ways. People don't know that because feminists own the dialogue when it comes to these topics. The assumption is that women are always victims and men are the perpetrators. That is absolutely statistically false. And that's what just one example of what this conference shows.
What this conversation really highlights is the benefits of platforms just like this one that have the opportunity to speak against the established system, because now we own the dialogue by watching and supporting the content over here, male-focused content, which now rivals the idea of something such as complete and utter gender equality, when it's clear to any decent, in reality living person that there's fundamental differences between the biology of men versus the biology of women. But this is how bad that it's gotten, where outlets can create content insulting those that speak against basic biological truths. But this is what they've asked for: complete and utter equality, to the extent of allowing biological men to compete against biological women in combat sports. It's completely and utterly insane. But this is what happens when you have ideologies that get unchecked and unrivaled. It's absolutely baffling to me that there's still a wide audience, and the audience is way bigger than the audience that speaks about biological truths. But that should let you know how many people want to run their lives based on how they feel about something, irrespective of facts.
So that's my idea of the patriarchy, which is a system of male dominance of society.
Yeah, but that's not my sense of the patriarchy.
So what's yours?
Well, in what sense is our society male-dominated?
The fact that the vast majority of wealth is owned by men, the vast majority of capital is owned by men. Women do more unpaid labour.
Very tiny proportion of men, and a huge proportion of people who are seriously disaffected are men. Most people in prison are men. Most people who are on the street are men. Most victims of violent crime are men. Most people who commit suicide are men. Most people who die in wars are men. People who do worse in school are men. It's like, where's the dominance here precisely? What you're doing is you're taking a tiny substrata of hyper-successful men and using that to represent the entire structure of Western society. There's nothing about that that's vaguely appropriate.
It's not appropriate, but I love the way that Jordan called her out using data to prove his points. Here's the facts. If you could take the male mortality rate in the world and make it the same rate as women's, you'd be doing more good for the world than curing cancer. From a numbers perspective, the male to female suicide rate is 4-to-1. Suicide takes more lives than war, murders, and natural disasters combined. 95% of all homeless people are male. 92% of all workplace deaths are male. So tell me, if you're looking at all of these numbers and you see how the chips are stacked up against men, how do you conclude that there is a patriarchy, one of which puts men completely on a pedestal while oppressing women, if these are the numbers that men are experiencing? But in order to maintain power in the minds of these young, impressionable men and women that believe in your hunk of shit, there's no way that you talk about these facts as you preach your bullshit of equality. Questions, comments, concerns? Y'all already know what to do. Mediocre tourism reviews at gmail.com. Guys, did you enjoy the video? Did you learn something new? If you did, write it down in the comment box down below and we will have a discussion about it. Last but not least, I got a Patreon. If you guys support my work, the things that I talk about, and you want to make sure that content creators like myself continue with their platforms, feel free to go down in the description box down below, click on the link, beam up, and support the homie. Until next time, YouTube, peace.